My name is Wayne Kimmel, managing partner of 76 Capital, and just so excited to be here today, back at the University of Maryland. I graduated here in 1992, and you're going to hear the stories of, there's actually 3 alums up here, and 1 person who actually works here every single day. So it's here, you're going to be really excited about what's going on here. So we're going to start off with the guy who actually just joined the panel, Danny Harvith. So why don't you grab a mic? Danny is taking the place of John Fazio, the CEO of Nerd Street Gamers. But Danny's a Maryland alum and works in the esports world. So why don't you, I'd love for you to start off, Danny, just give you a little background, like 1 minute background of yourself and what Nerd Street Gamers is.
Yeah, awesome. It's really great to be back. I'm a Maryland alum, graduated in 2011. And it was at one of these events that I met you, Wayne, and came up and spoke to you and introduced myself and demanded a job.
Demanded a job.
Yeah, and that was, I studied at the business school, finance and accounting, knew I wanted to be in the startup world. Wayne is a VC, that was my entry point into the startup world. Brought me up to Philadelphia. From there, I worked for Wayne for a couple of years on the VC side, and really learning that perspective of the startup world, which has been really invaluable. From the capital allocator, from the investor side. From there, I hopped over to the startup side and worked for John, my current CEO, at his previous company that was a software development firm and a startup incubator. So we would build startups in-house and see which ones could grow legs. And Nerd Street was one of those. We were located on North 3rd Street, looked like Nerd Street. It was kind of this joke nickname that some of the tech and creative leaders in Philadelphia called that corridor of Philadelphia. And we thought that was cool and should be more of a thing. And so we started hosting events, and or anybody that wanted to organize anything really was able to come to our office and host an event, and we'd help market it. We ended up working with the city of Philly city council to pass a resolution naming the area Nerd Street, and they put up street signs and tax incentives and some cool things. And meanwhile, we were gamers. John was a gamer. And so Nerd Street Gamers was one of the groups that we started to have gaming parties, LAN parties. And John had previously tried to start a gaming and esports company 10 years prior. And that's one of the things about business, right? Is it's so much about timing, right? Esports has actually been around it's been 50 years since the first esports tournament at Stanford was a space war tournament. But then, 30 years later, Twitch gets invented, and then Amazon buys it, and it democratizes content creation, and the industry starts booming. So John had this vision for this company. We started it at Nerd Street, and what it grew into was we saw that there was a demand for in-person competitions, in-person community gathering around each one of these gaming communities. And this was a community that had previously been largely underserved, right? Gamers were looked at as playing in their parents' basements. But what we saw was this was a community for a lot of people that through traditional sports, you get the community leadership, teamwork, career advancement opportunities. This community found that through esports and gaming, all those same things, except for that career opportunity. And so that's what we set out to build, was that infrastructure, that pipeline.
We'll get into the whole thing. I mean, you have 10 locations all across the country and just really growing as one of the biggest esports companies in the United States today. So super excited to talk more about that. Peter Raskin, I'd love for you to give your story and how you built Rubicon Talent.
Sure. Thanks, Wayne. Nice to be here. I used to be you guys sitting in the very back row, so I know where you're at. I'll do the crossword puzzles during class. Peter Raskin, company's called Rubicon Talent. I've been in the sports business my entire career since I graduated here, way before that guy, in 1993. And I've always been fascinated with the business of sports. Played sports, not very well, love to watch sports, but really love the business of the sports. So I I'd be the guy watching the game on TV, seeing who was advertising. And so I started doing a lot of internships while I was here in Maryland, at a bunch of different companies in the sports space. I worked at retail, at a Foot Locker over at PG Plaza, which was a learning experience in and of itself. I worked for Starter Sportswear in the summers, in the factory, learning that side of the business. So I got to see the manufacturer side, the retail side. And then when I graduated, got an internship very quickly after college at a sports management company called Integrated Sports International. And it was a marketing representation agency. So athletes go out and sign with a contract agent who handles everything that they do on the field or on the court, depending on your sport. And then they go out generally more and more these days and hire a specialist in marketing. And that's been my industry for the past 30 years or so. And it's always working with athletes, whether they're NFL players, Olympians, basketball players, coaches, even chefs, helping them to build their brands outside of their contracts with their teams, building brands, creating marketing campaigns, endorsements, sort of all the fun stuff, I think. And I've been doing that at Rubicon now for 6 years, which we started. I was at some small firms, got bought into bigger firms, had my own company, sold it, and started Rubicon 6 years ago. So I got to know Wayne actually here in Maryland, and we do some work together as well, as a lot of our clients these days, as I'm sure you guys know, want to be entrepreneurs and want to start businesses and are interested in that part of the business. And so teaming up with Wayne at 76 provided us another sort of arrow in the quiver for our athletes that were interested in that part of the business. And so it's been a really nice partnership, and we've done some work with Nerd Street as well. And we can talk about that as we go on, but it's been a great partnership.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait to spur you. You won't believe some of the people that Peter's worked with. Some of the athletes, it's unbelievable. You know every single one of them. Lauren Foundos, tell us your story. How you
Awesome.
started here at Maryland.
For sure. Hey guys, my name is Lauren. I went to Maryland from 2002 to 2006. I played field hockey here. I had the great pleasure of hanging out with my coach, Missy Mahari, yesterday, which was an awesome day and obviously exciting to be back on campus and just see all the amazing things that have been happening here over the years. After graduating from Maryland, I actually worked on Wall Street for a little over a decade. I really liked what I was doing. It was a great career, a lucrative career, but I was really missing something in my life, and that was fitness and sort of the roots of my whole existence. And so I started to take my clients to work out with me a lot because I was feeling like I didn't have enough time to do it. So it became sort of my client entertainment. And I got really into the fitness scene and started to become really clear to me what I thought the future of fitness was going to look like. And, I ultimately would sit at work so distracted. And I knew that if I didn't start doing or acting on this, premonition that I had, that I would just tell a sad story that I thought of this idea first and I did nothing about it. So I ended up deciding on a whim to just leave a lucrative career and build my company, which is called FORTE. We enable gyms to create like a premium digital experience for their members. So like a Peloton-like experience, we built this automated hardware that enables them to live broadcast. And then we built them a site app ecosystem so they can offer that to their members, and it's all integrated into their offerings. So we power the UFC, the YMCA, the NFL Players Association, Under Armour World Headquarters Gym, and many others that you probably know. So for me, it was more, I wasn't trying to necessarily start a company, but I think my superpower in doing this is that I'm super, super passionate, obviously, about fitness and working out. It's been my whole existence, and just being a super user of this space has been, super exciting for me. And so I definitely encourage you guys to do something that you're super passionate about.
That's great. That's great, Lauren. And Jack, I'd love for you to share. One thing I probably didn't mention for everybody is that there's a tie between 76 Capital and all of everybody across the panel here. We're investors in Nerd Street Gamers, which is Danny's company. We are, as Peter said, we're partners with Peter at Rubicon Talent. We're investors in Lauren's company at FORTE. And our senior advisor, Mike Schreiber, is the CEO of Playfly Sports, which Jack is the general manager here at the University of Maryland. So Jack, share us with you a little bit of your background as well as what Playfly Sports does here at the University of Maryland.
Sure. So, I can say that I made a wise decision back in 2003 when I was an intern at the Orioles, and I volunteered to go to the corporate sales department because I knew that was a revenue generating role. And I've been able to enjoy that career for almost 20 years now. So, I'm a Baltimore guy. I grew up in Baltimore, rooted for Gary Williams' team. I see Taj Holden sitting here. You know, big fan of you there, Taj. Thanks for being here, buddy. But yeah, so Maryland was the pro team. I didn't go here, sorry, but Maryland was the pro team growing up in Baltimore. So this opportunity came about 3 years ago and jumped at it. A little bit about Playfly. So we were part of another group, and Michael Schreiber created Playfly and bought our group about 3 years ago. Not 3 years ago, sorry, about two years ago now, and has been buying a lot of things ever since. We also part of Playfly. He also bought the Fox Sports properties. He bought HTS, which is a sales arm. They basically have every single Major League Baseball game that they sell into, and they also have a huge esports company in CSL. And actually, Maryland just won the grand finals in
League of Legends.
In League of Legends. Yeah, so we got the national champion esports team here, reigning just a couple of days ago. But we're working at the University of Maryland to create some esports opportunities. And when you look at the stats, I mean, 79% of incoming students ask about esports on campus. So it's a booming industry that Playfly is well in the forefront and trying to support.
So Jack, what's your day-to-day responsibility here at the University of Maryland for Playfly?
So I'm the general manager of Maryland Sports Properties. How many in here has been to a basketball or football game? Okay. Anybody ever gotten a t-shirt? Yeah. Okay. So we generate revenue to create those opportunities for students. We basically work with any brand, any partner, any marketer that wants to interact and engage with the University of Maryland athletics. We handle. So we bring in those revenue. We work with those brands. We produce all the radio broadcasts. We run the official app of University of Maryland Athletics. So lot goes on under our group. We are looking for interns, paid interns. So anybody interested in doing some fun stuff over the fall, come see me.
That's great. That's great. Lauren, you mentioned briefly some of these major brands that you work with at Forte. Maybe just give a little more detail around what you do for them, from a digital perspective, so that people can actually have the same experience that they have at the gym that you're able to have at home or wherever you want to get involved with your gym or your fitness center.
Yeah, for sure. So our clients are gyms, so they're not usually technically advanced. And so, the operators were they didn't want to adopt technology, but obviously the pandemic really forced them to have to do it because it was the only way to connect with their community because we were all stuck at home for a while. Obviously that super tracked the business and was very exciting for the company. And so it really changed their mindset. And so what we do basically is, to help them live broadcast their classes, we put a server into the gym, and then at 12 o'clock, if the class is scheduled, it will wake up that computer, it will produce that class. So it's cutting between camera angles, mixing the audio of the trainer, and then it renders it on demand. So that all happens through this automation that we've developed. And that's, it makes it more cost effective for them. So the trainer just has to show up and teach a good class and start and stop on time. And then from the user perspective, you're going on the app, it's two-way video, so the instructors can see you. There's live leaderboards, you can compete in real time. It's just the same thing. I'll take classes sometimes, but I'll also be emailing and they're watching, they're like, put your phone down if you're gonna take the class. I'm like, So it's a really awesome experience. I think what's interesting too is just that, Peloton is a really great business, but people want to have the ability to have a hybrid lifestyle. Just some pandemic trends will not stick, and some will. So like work from home, people are going to do that forever. It's going to be difficult for people to go back every day. And same for fitness. And so gyms really need to have that. They also have to iterate the experience. And so most people are not athletes and they don't know what to do. And so they're consuming the content actually within the club. And so having a better experience just working out in the gym and telling people what to do. And the other thing that's really cool we do with the UFC, because they're a sports league as well, is they bring in a fighter and then they have their hundreds of gyms around the world in Bolivia and Dubai and Australia, all over the world. And they have hundreds of people go to the gym like a party to take the class with Frankie Edgar, a champion fighter. And so it's really cool because, you go to this UFC gym, you don't feel like you're part of anything special, but when you see all these gyms around the world and all these people taking the same class as you, you really feel like you're part of something bigger. So it's been exciting to see UFC, that's the whole point of the internet, right? Facebook makes this very big world feel very small. And so to be able to bring that community together for the UFC was groundbreaking. They have hundreds of locations in 40 countries, but that moment for them was really exciting.
That's phenomenal. And Peter, you mentioned earlier, you've been in the sports marketing business for, since you left here in Maryland, went to work for David Falk, who was most famous for representing Michael Jordan. And now working with clients like Greg Olson, as an example, who was an unbelievable tight end, now is one of the top, announcers on Fox Sports. What is it like working with athletes like that and kind of taking them through their whole career?
Some are good, some are bad. Greg's a good one. We try to help foster our athletes from when they're rookies to what they want to do when they're done playing. Whether that's to go on to coaching, whether that's to go on to developing businesses and beating guys like Wayne, or if they want to go on to television. And so the guys that take it seriously take the time while they're playing football or whatever their sport is to practice this other craft. So on Tuesdays, which is generally an off day for NFL players, most guys go home and hang out and just chill and hang with their boys or their families. Greg did local television, or he did local radio, or we did Fox Sports South. And he worked. He went up to ESPN for a day to do what's called a car wash, which is you go up there for the day and hit every show. And you really cut your teeth and start to develop what you're good at. And he found that he was really good at it, and it came very naturally. So it made it come pretty easy for him to a job before he even finished playing football. We had a deal with Fox in place for him to be there. And if you guys are watching what's going on in the TV world, you've got guys like Troy Aikman making $18 million a year now, and Tony Romo making $20 million a year. And so the business, from a technology standpoint, just to keep on trend with the panel here, now you have Amazon, and now you have Apple, and you have all these new content and distribution platforms, that there's a need for more people that are good at it. So we work with all the clients individually on what they're interested in and help them get to that next step while they can, the worst thing you can do is just play your sport and then worry about what you're going to do when the lights are off. It's so much easier when the lights are on you and you're on TV every day, you're playing, to take advantage of those relationships. I'm sure Wayne will talk about this later, but networking, even as a football player in the NFL, is important. You have this unbelievable opportunity to meet titans of business, get to know them, invite them to a game. So those are the kind of things we try to work with our players on to set themselves up for when they're done.
I have so many follow-ups, but we'll wait. Danny, you're ready for, I know, but I gotta go to Danny. But Danny, talk about, share with everybody what happens inside of Nerd Street Gamers facilities, which are called local hosts. What happens on a weekend when you're having a big tournament? Share with that, maybe you can paint that picture of what it's like.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what Nerd Street is, what we do, we build and operate gaming and esports facilities called local host. These are sort of your hockeyplex or soccerplex of esports. And we run the programming when we operate this facility. We're running the programming, the events that happen in those facilities, the content that comes out of those facilities, and the software that runs those facilities. So, on a normal day, you can come into a local host and there's 100 computers, 100 high-end gaming PCs that you can just sit down and play whatever game you want, practice, hang out, it's a social environment, pay by the hour to play on these top tier machines. But then every single night, we'll have a different event in a different game. Some of those are community nights, Twitch meetups, Overwatch meetups just to bring that community together in a social casual environment. Some of those are high-end tournaments where there's $50,000 cash prize on the table and you're getting really intense competitions. And these can be 3-day long tournaments, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, with double elimination brackets and, best of 5, 128 teams, all playing and competing, working their way to the finals. And it's a really intense environment. And then we're producing the content that comes out of that so that people can watch. And so what those facilities need to be is the infrastructure that's developing this pipeline of amateur competitive esports. And so we try to give that entry point for casual gamers, a home for each of those communities. But then if you want to start dabbling in competitive play or start to think of yourselves as a competitive gamer, we have a bunch of different types of programs for you to work your way up to that competitive scene.
That's awesome. Well, look, I want to do something a little different real quick, and I didn't tell the panelists we're going to do this, but we're going to do some quick questions, just some quick hitters, just to sort of mix it up a little bit, keep things a little fresh here, so we can get going here. So I'm going to start with Jack. Jack, just a and I'll walk down, move real quick. So Jack, what's your favorite sport to watch or play? Golf. All right, Laura.
Field hockey.
Football.
Football.
All right. What is your best memory here at the University of Maryland?
Well, it wasn't exactly here, but I was at the 2002 National Championship in Atlanta.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Waking up at midnight to start training in August and doing something that they call a gauntlet, which I don't think is allowed to be done anymore.
That's pretty cool.
It makes you a lot harder.
I'd say the people. We had unbelievable friendships that I still keep in touch with today.
Yeah, the people in college, you get to just be with those people so much every day, every single night, hours on end, late, in the weekend. That's something that when you graduate and go, people separate and you have your own lives and careers and families, you don't get that much time with your people.
Why don't we start with you, Danny? Who's your favorite Maryland athlete of all time?
Gosh, Holden, baby, let's go. And one Dixon, and one Dixon.
And Juan Dixon. All right, there you go.
I'd say Walt Williams,
Wizard.
the wizard.
Lauren?
I'd say my boy, Nick Cater-Medley. He was 22, I was 22 at the same time. He's still playing, bro.
Nick's still playing basketball in Europe now, right?
Yep. 16 years.
That's amazing. That's unbelievable.
Todd, you're number 2, but I gotta go with Grievous Vasquez.
Yeah, you're fine.
So what would you say, last kind of quick question, what's the biggest change that you've seen in sports since college, just in general? What have you seen the biggest shift that now from the time that, we were in college back in the old days till today?
I think it's got to be the social media, the influencer effect of engagement and how, at least in my world, how brands are measuring those engagements, whether it's signage or, talk about technology. I actually just got an email from a group called Visual that is, it's a strategic partner of Playfly's that is evaluating how signage gets shown on TV. So Peter, when you were growing up looking at the advertisers, maybe you should have created Visual. I don't know, man. There's an opportunity there. But no, I would say that's the big. Even from when I started this business in 2003, we were putting PowerPoint decks together of, hey, look how good your sign looks in the stadium full of 20,000 fans. Now it's how many times was it viewed on TV and for how long, and there's algorithms that do that, and I would just say technology as a whole.
There's a lot of things that are different, but I would say one thing that I see is just the level of intensity. I think also in just you guys, the students that go here, but same thing goes with sports. The people that are making the national team are younger and younger and younger, playing in the Olympics, like in field hockey specifically, usually had to go through college to be seasoned enough to play. people are making it at much younger ages, training much harder. And I think the same thing goes with school too. The competitive level to get in here is just so high. So everybody's ratcheting up the intensity, kids. So buckle up.
I have a million answers to this question.
Yeah, I know.
I'm trying to focus it down to one. I'll do two. Gambling, by far, has had the biggest impact across sports. And part of it, which goes to sort of my number two, is the way that we're consuming games now. People are going to the games less, they're watching it on your phone. My 10-year-old gets the scores on TikTok and reports them back to me in the morning before I've even flipped on ESPN. So where they're consuming it, how they're consuming it, the Manning casts, who would have ever thought that you could have an alternative broadcast to watch Monday Night Football? We're going to see a lot more of that moving forward when Amazon does their Thursday Night Football. They'll have 2 or 3 different options. You can find an announcing team that speaks to you. And I think that personalization is really interesting in how we're consuming. So those would be my 2 biggest.
Danny?
Yeah, I think gambling is a great answer. That's, and it's still so early. That's just going to be so massive. For me personally, with my career, I mean, esports was barely an industry when I was here at college. So that's obviously within a time. And then, the way people produce and consume content, all the different platforms for consumption, but also production, right? Like Twitch, TikTok, it's really the creator economy these days. And that's a monumental shift.
Well, let's follow up a little bit on what Peter just said about how people consume sports today in a different way. And it's because of technology, right? I mean, it's really because of that. And recently I heard an incredible stat from one of the chief revenue officers of one of the NFL teams. And she said to me that 99% of their fans do not go to their games and have never, ever been in their stadium. Was crazy. It was a crazy thing for me to think about. And Danny, I'll start with you on this. I mean, how do you think about this where, how people are consuming their sports today, the things that they love in such a different way? How do you guys see that from the perspective of Nerd Street?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that you really, a big part of just operating a business is staying current, right? Staying current with what the consumer is doing, where they are, where you can reach them, where they're consuming your product. And it's evolving and shifting so fast.
So Danny, let me jump in real quick. So you guys during COVID, I remember you did an NFL Madden tournament, which was broadcast on ESPN with Snoop. Snoop was one of the players. Talk about how you did that. That was unbelievable. No one was around. People were all over the place. How did that even come to be?
Yeah, that was one of the things with our company that everybody's really, but when COVID hit, we have all these facilities around the country for in-person competition, and we had to pivot to doing everything remotely, everything online, which was a big shift, complete shift in how we operate and our ethos and our mission. And so what we were able, fortunately, we're in an environment in an industry in gaming where that's very natural. The remote online gameplay is very natural to that community. And so the skill set of our team was able to transition really quickly. And now we produce online tournaments, online content every day, every week. And it's you're pulling in camera feeds from people's webcams rather than cameras in your facility that you have a direct connection with. So there's some technology infrastructure changes that, in terms of how you're pulling feeds, and then you're just managing those feeds the same way that you would if you were in person.
Peter, I mean, we can back up on your point as well, but I mean, just how technologically advanced are your clients today and how they're able to just kind of jump in and get into a broadcast and just be able to be so comfortable with social media, traditional media, and what's next across the media world.
Yeah, I mean, our clients blow us away all the time, right? Like that's the life they live. It's not like me trying to figure out TikTok, which I'm on now, but it's nothing for us.
Follow Peter Raskin.
Don't do it. It's boring kids content. During the pandemic, we were shooting commercials in our clients' houses. And I remember one vividly. We had a commercial with Bud Light and George Kittle, tight end on the San Francisco 49ers. And they had to get a commercial done for the draft in April. and George's dad held the camera. George's mom held the lighting. His wife did his makeup. They set the set by themselves, and via Zoom, we shot a national commercial that his family shot in his house. They shipped all the equipment, they taught him how to use it, and literally in their little bubble, they shot a Bud Light national commercial that ran during the draft. So these guys are savvy. It's gotten a lot easier for look, we all know how to use Zoom now. Maybe we didn't beforehand or weren't comfortable, but I think we're all comfortable sitting on a Zoom these days. The technology is making everything easier. You don't have to fly across the country for a meeting anymore. You might want to, but the reality is you can get just as much out of it. So yeah, the clients from a technological standpoint, they're guiding us. They're telling us that they're playing Rocket League. You know, I didn't know what Rocket League was until we had clients saying, that's all I play. So we follow their lead a lot because they're on trend. They're in the locker rooms with their players. They know what's hot. They know what people are interested in. They know what they use for recovery. I mean, technology for these athletes today, Therabody and Hyperice, and those were never around. And now they're the most gigantic categories out there. Hyperice is an NFL partner now. So technology continues to help these guys, not only for the fun stuff, but for the job. So it's been, yeah, it's unbelievable.
Absolutely. And Lauren, same question.
Yeah, I think for us, my clients are the opposite of the spectrum, right? They're like, we have to bring them into the future, and we have to use examples like, hey, Beyonce is on the radio, or you can listen to on iTunes, but it's not like she has one person at her concert. She's selling out a concert. It doesn't make the people not want to go. You know, it doesn't cannibalize your business. It actually increases the engagement. And to your point, it's getting more people involved to do more, to be more engaged and see things more when they have the frequency and the ability to consume the content all the time anywhere. So I think, it's interesting when you start a company, it may fail, it may not, but timing is really important. And so, as a founder, it's been interesting to see, to go through this evolution, and it's exciting that the market is actually where we are. I think that's
well. Let me just specifically, like the gyms themselves. They want people to come in there, use their equipment, work out inside of their gym and do their thing. But now you're able to expand that to such a much bigger audience, and not just in that city, anywhere across the world.
Totally, yeah. I mean, most people in America don't work out, and they live around the corner from these places too. So the biggest opportunity is giving people the chance to become a member of that community, do it remotely, feel confident, and ultimately go to the gym. And I think in terms of like the data and the wearable tech, most people are not that motivated. And so we're really trying to use the technology in a cool way, like Whoop uses heart rate variability to show people like, hey, maybe you didn't get skinnier because you gotta eat chicken and salad, and it's really boring to get a six-pack, and that's how you do it. But your heart is working more efficiently, your overall stress level is better. Like, this is actually really good for you, because a lot of the working out, like language, is just around like getting shredded, and then people work out and they give up because it doesn't happen, and it's all about your diet. And so, yeah, using tools like that to show people too that they're doing reps right and that they have good form, so that way they know they're going to go there and not make a fool of themselves. So I think, unfortunately, most people just don't have the confidence to break in there. It's a high barrier to entry. The two places you don't want to go when you're not fit is the gym and the beach. And take your shirt off, and then everyone there is doing that. So we're trying to make it also just more inclusive, so more people can get involved.
That's great. And Jack, I mean, you talked about t-shirts, right? I mean, used to be, right, you wanted people in the stands, give them a t-shirt, maybe a coupon to get a hot dog or something. But now it's all about reaching the fans. Anyone who loves Maryland, who's into the University of Maryland athletics, you're able to reach them anywhere and everywhere in the world through everything that you're doing from a technology perspective.
Sure. So when we launched the app, I mean, that was a big thing for us, where anybody can tune into our radio broadcast. Was huge. We're actually, it's funny that Peter brought up the Manning cast. We're actually doing that. So one of our sister properties, Michigan State, pioneered live cast. They actually had two football players do sort of a Manning cast version of a basketball game, and we're going to be rolling that out to all of our schools across Playfly sports properties, which is, it's no slouch in terms of our roster. We got USC, Villanova, Georgetown, ourselves, UVA, LSU, Auburn. So it's a good group of schools.
You be grooming a bunch of guys so Peter could represent.
Yeah, sure, Peter. Pipeline.
maybe exchange business cards, do some deals here or something. That was happening?
Absolutely.
So Peter actually brought up earlier about sports betting. Talk about how that, I mean, that must be, being a veteran in the sports marketing world on the college side of the world, to talk about sports betting is kind of crazy, right?
If you would have told me 10 years ago that we would be the first Big Ten school to do a gaming deal, I would have thought you were crazy. So we actually were. We broke the ice in the Big Ten. We were the first school to have a gaming partner. And I'm sure a lot of you know, gaming still isn't live in this state. And we've had a deal with PointsBet now for a year, and they're taking their chance on us, and they're trying to cultivate the Maryland community and earn those gamers. And there's no telling when gaming will be legal in the state, but talking about technology, one of the things that they do is they do dark posts. So if you're a Maryland fan that owns a Lexus that it happens to be 32 to 45 years old, living in Bloomington, Indiana, you're probably going to get a Maryland branded Facebook target ad to sign up for some free play with PointsBet when Maryland's playing Indiana in Bloomington. So sort of granular, but that's what they're after.
Right, because Indiana has legalized
Legalized
sports.
gaming, yeah, so does Michigan. So when we play in Michigan, same thing.
It's really amazing. I mean, we've had conversations with athletic departments in states where sports betting is not legal yet, and they'll ask us about a specific game, and we'll say, so how much money was bet on that game? And one of the examples was that over $50 million was bet on one game, and one of the persons one of the people on the call, he was like, I don't want to hear that. No, I can't deal with that. And then his superior, she says, hold on a second. I need to understand that. Where were the bets? Where did they come from? How did this all work? I mean, what's happening here? Was it the students? Was it alums? Was it just fans? I mean, there's so much data, so much information that's going to be gleaned from the sports betting industry, and how that plays into the overall marketing side of things is just going to be unbelievable.
Sure, and that's one of the things that PointsBet is really pioneering. Their first deal ever was at University of Colorado, and they are mimicking their program here with us, where they are going into educating students and hopefully taking some students that want to have a career in this world, and showing them sort of the ins and outs of how that all works, and the data and algorithms, everything else. So it is something that they are trying to educate the student body as well, and recruit.
Well, I'm getting the high side to wrap up. But the last thing we're going to do is, Jack just hit on it. I want to just run down the line real fast. You mentioned about how students can get involved. Really understanding the data, the analytics side of the world is something important. So how can people potentially reach you at Playfly if they want that internship, or what you're looking for? We'll just do that real quick down the line, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, we're right in the Xfinity Center. Come see us. We're right next to the team store. No, but I'll be around. I'll have my information. Everybody can come see me.
Perfect. Lauren?
Yeah, hey, so you could reach out to us at careers@forte.fit. We are aggressively hiring. We're closing a round of funding. We are looking for lots of things, a lot of tech engineering, specifically marketing, social media, all the things. So we're growing rapidly. So please definitely hit us up if everybody's looking for an internship. And I think, make sure you network. I think it's important to note that Wayne went to Maryland. Wayne is also my investor. Dingman Center also invested in my company. So it's really important to, build good relationships, leverage the communities that you have, and take advantage of these type of things.
And we got to give a shout out to my partner, Chad.
Yeah, Chad Stender, we miss you. But really, we're here.
His dad's here, so I'm going to make sure you do.
Hi, Mr. Stender. Yeah, Chad's actually my main man, but we're here in Maryland today. So
He's your main man?
well, he's on my board, so. But no, I love you guys all.
Of course.
I would just say internships are critical. I mean, in the summer, I think that's really, especially in the sports space that I'm in, on the marketing and the management side with athletes, it's very competitive. We get a lot of resumes. We do take internships in the summer. We also have some interns in off times that they're just able to make work. You can find me here today. I have some business cards and you can shoot us a resume. But like networking to me, I'm sure, I don't want to steal Wayne's thunder later because I'm sure it's in his closing remarks, but the networking is probably the most important thing you could do while you're here, where your friends go work, their coworkers. I mean, to have a good network and be able to call on people, not cold, makes it a lot easier. And it's really your currency. And so I'd encourage you. It's hard to think about it when you're in college. I know I didn't, but if there's one thing you can do, it's network with as many people as you can. And LinkedIn makes that really easy these days. It's right at your fingertips. So I would also look at that.
Danny?
Yeah, volunteer, intern, stalk people, show up at conferences that they're speaking at, consume their content, and totally relationships are huge. And maintaining those relationships, right? Like I literally have a spreadsheet of all the people I've basically ever met and when the last time I spoke to them was, and making sure that I'm keeping in touch and checking in, because you don't want to just reach out when you need something. Right?
Well, thanks to all of you, Jack, Lauren, Peter, Danny, the whole group here at the University of Maryland, all those students did an unbelievable job. Thanks to Ty. I mean, this is awesome. We as a Maryland community have an opportunity to build something really special. We're just really proud to have been able to be here and be a part of it. So thanks everybody.